Good evening, Houdat Nation, and happy Wednesday, Bayou Blitz family. I hope everybody is doing well out there. We have officially entered spooky season. Happy October 1st. So for all of you Halloween buffs and Halloween fans like myself, it's the only thing that rivals summer for me is Halloween season. I'm going to enjoy myself as the leaves turn and the scary costumes come out. The scary costumes have been worn by our New Orleans Saints for the first 4 weeks. And breaking down all of that, some horrors to come, are myself, Bob Rose, and him, Brendan Boylan, your co-host for your Bayou Blitz podcast. Happy October 1st, Mr. Boylan.
Yeah, you as well. It's the weather is still affecting my sinuses a lot because of how much cooler it is here in North Carolina. I don't think my trip to the West Coast helped out with that too much.
Nope.
But we're pushing through. It is a fun time. It is a busy month, at least on my end. I know for you, obviously, covering the team, writing, and everything going on, it becomes busy and kind of feels like a whirlwind. I know this month's going to just fly by, and hopefully it flies by with a couple of Saints wins. I think they have some winnable games coming up.
Mm-hmm.
But Bob and I really wanted to kind of open the floor for discussion here because it has been a talking point over the last few weeks with Spencer Rattler. It has been more of a talking point when it comes to Chris Olave over maybe the last 2 weeks. And we felt like it was a good time to kind of address the elephant in the room. Is it time to have that talk on where the future for maybe this season and beyond is for both of these guys? But before we do that, Bob, let's string together a couple of things that I think are going to make you happy. The first is talking about our sponsors and our friends over at Get Checked or Check Out. And immediately after that, Bob, you get to talk about Cesar Ruiz and his injury status. So both of those things should make Bob pretty happy. So let's go ahead and talk about our friends at Get Checked or Check Out.
Well, I'll tell you, the first one, the first issue really makes me happy. I say October 1st, and I try to put on this happy face as we proceed through fall and creep closer to winter. The reality is I just want to fast forward to March and the cruise, the 2026 original Go Black and Gold Celebrity Charity Fan Cruise, sponsored by Get Checked or Check Out. The 2026 cruise, the dates are March 26th through March 30th. That's Thursday, March 26th. And coming back, for those of you wishing to come back, Monday, March 30th. Now, this year's cruise is going to be docking in the Bahamas, which is a new destination for the cruise. Really excited to go. I've never been. Gonna scale the edge of the trim the edge of the Bermuda Triangle. So I guess that's actually been on my bucket list for all of my life. And for those of you that know me, that shouldn't surprise you one bit. Climbing a volcano also up there, but that's another show for another time. But yeah, March 26th through March 30th, docking in the Bahamas, sailing out of Jacksonville, Florida this year, not New Orleans. However, if you are coming from New Orleans or anywhere in the Gulf Coast region, there are packages where all of you will be leaving together. And leaving from New Orleans to Jacksonville to get on the boat. The boat is a Carnival Cruise Line ship, and you can book your cabin either through the Get Checked or Check Out website or through Summer Cochran at Seven Seas Travel. Summer's number is 985-643-6958. That's a text. That's her cell phone, so you can either text her or call her, whichever is convenient for you. When you book your cabin, and it only takes a small down payment to book it, folks. You don't have to pay off the rest of the trip, until January, so you get Christmas and all that stuff out of the way before you have to worry about, taking care of the rest of the cruise. But make that down payment now to book your cabin, to hold your cabin, because the cabins are going to start to go fast, especially as we do approach the holidays. So when you do book through summer, make sure that you mention Brendan, myself, and the Bayou Blitz, and she'll know exactly how to take care of you. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You can also contact Shireen DeWalt, as I said, through Get Checked or Check Out, especially regarding the group packages that are available leaving from New Orleans to Jacksonville. I know I'm flying down directly into Jacksonville, myself and my family, so we'll be boarding on the boat there. But I really hope to see a lot of you. This was such a great experience for us last year. The Saints greats so far that have confirmed for the 2026 cruise are Delvin Breaux, Tyrone Hughes, Michael Lewis, Courtney Roby, how much fun, folks. So in the bars, casinos, on deck, on the beach, those Saints players, their families, your family, and the rest of the Saints group, we're all going to be eating dinner together and doing everything else. A very competitive putt-putt golf tournament and a few other contests coming your way on this year's cruise. I guess technically it's next year's cruise. Please text me, email me, direct message me. If you have any questions or need me to talk about the trip a little bit more, this is a fantastic vacation for you and your family, and it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience. And on top of that, you get to benefit a great cause. This cruise is the major fundraiser for Get Checked or Check Out, an organization, a health-related organization that's there for you. If you or a family member or loved one get a medical diagnosis that just scares the heck out of you, and you don't know where to turn next, you don't know what to do next, Get Checked or Check Out, and the website is right at the bottom of our screen, tcynow.org. Get Checked or Check Out is there to help steer you in the right direction for therapy, both from the physical and emotional, family and individual therapy, research options, treatment options. That's what they're there to do. They're there to answer the questions and take care of the issues that we never knew would pop up or that maybe you didn't think about. So again, this cruise is a major fundraiser for Get Checked or Check Out. So you're not only treating yourself to a wonderful trip, a once-in-a-lifetime experience, but you're benefiting a great cause. And our friends at Get Checked or Check Out want to focus on specific health awareness issue every month. Now that we flip the calendar into October, October is, of course, and this is a nationwide thing, Breast Cancer Awareness Month. The color pink, as most of you know, is representative of breast cancer, particularly a breast cancer survivor. And it's been that way since the 1980s. But breast cancer is the second most commonly diagnosed cancer, and that's global. That increases the vital importance to stay informed and proactive about getting regularly screened. That means regular mammograms, being aware of your family history, and self-checkups will help with early diagnosis, early detection, and improve treatment outcomes. There's a few things that you can do in your daily lifestyle to decrease the odds too. Maintain a healthy weight, regular exercise, eat a healthy diet, limit your alcohol consumption, and absolutely positively do not smoke. Again, Breast Cancer Awareness Month is our October health-related issue, but regardless of health, the health related issue you may or may not be concerned about, whether it's mental, emotional, or physical. Make sure that you get those checkups done. Keep those doctor's appointments. If it's been a while, make one. Ask the questions, and not only for yourself, but the friends, family members, and loved ones in your life.
What I will say about Breast Cancer Awareness Month, can we petition to bring the pink wristbands and the pink towels and all that back to
I would
NFL
love it.
games? It'd be nice, right?
Yeah, I would absolutely love it. In fact, I would. The NFL still does. I think it's military month, Veterans Month for November. I'm all for that, but I think the NFL and all professional sports should do this kind of thing, not just for breast cancer, but all other related health issues. That's why an organization like Get Checked or Check Out is so important to us. We've gotten to know Shireen, and the other members, so active with that organization. And the Saints players that I mentioned, they are very heavily involved in all the Get Checked or Check Out functions. So I know for a fact that they're strong believers in it. So guys, like I said, book your cabin for this cruise. You're giving yourself, yes, a vacation, an escape from life. That's the way I looked at it. But you're benefiting such a terrific cause too.
Absolutely. I'm down for it. One of the fun parts about doing college sports back in the day, when I was commentating, a lot of small colleges actually would wear pink uniforms during October. Different basketball teams, lacrosse teams would find ways to incorporate pink into their uniforms. I would just like the players to have the option because one, great cause. Two, a lot of good memories, with some of these guys wearing the pink. And if baseball can have pink bats for Mother's Day, why can't we have pink cleats, pink wristbands or sleeves or whatever, for breast cancer awareness? So that's my petition, Roger Goodell. I know you're not going to listen to me, but it is what it is. He doesn't listen to a lot of people. I'm not too offended. Bob, before we jump into the Cesar Ruiz news that I know is going to bring another smile to your face. Not a sponsor spot, but I did want to give a quick shout out to a company, and I know this will interest some of you guys. Wilder Side of Sports. It is a company that works hand in hand with different sports card and memorabilia shows, and the athletes themselves. And a few weeks ago, they worked with two different Saints greats. That was Ricky Jackson and Joe Horn. So I wanted to give them a quick shout out. I was unable to attend in person because I was at Bob's favorite place in the world. I was at the beach. But I reached out to Jim, one of the owners, and let him know I had a really important piece of history that I wanted Joe Horn to autograph for me. And Jim said, no problem, send it in. I paid him, whatever the fee was for Joe Horn to sign it, and I got it back. So here it is. This is a Joe Horn game ball, inscribed. He wrote, "Who dat?" Let's see if I can get the light on that. Hollywood, 100+ games with the Saints, and then he signed it very small somewhere down here. But if you have any needs like that, or you have some really cool or important Saints pieces of memorabilia, you see the helmets that sit behind Bob every week. You see the Delvin Bro jersey I have behind me. If you guys have things like that you want to get signed, go check them out on Facebook, Wilder Side of Sports, or on Instagram. They have different events with different players throughout the year. They had Ricky Williams a few weeks ago, another Saints guy. So reach out to them and see if it just happens to correspond that you have one of your favorite Saints players doing an event with them. So another shout out to them and to Jim for taking such good care of me with a prized possession of mine. That was that fun game in Dallas in 2006 where Carney had 3 touchdowns. That was the game ball from that game. So
nice.
That was a fun one. Okay, back to Saints news and Cesar Ruiz. Bob, we talked about post-game that we didn't know the extent of the injury at that point. We knew that he limped off, and it didn't look particularly good. It didn't look like something that was going to necessarily be season-ending, but it did look like something that was going to hold him out for some time. We did get confirmation. You're looking at a high ankle sprain for Cesar Ruiz. 4 to 6 weeks is your typical recovery time. But you had mentioned that you almost felt better with Ruiz's replacement in that game than you did Cesar Ruiz. And I know we've made jokes about Ruiz, and we've been highly critical of his performance outside of, I don't know, maybe there was like a 4-game stretch 2 years ago, 5-game stretch 2 or 3 years ago where Ruiz was playing really well. But outside of that, it has been a roller coaster ride for the first round pick. He is going to miss some time. So yet again, the Saints are going to be without their projected starting 5 for another 4 to 6 weeks, or at least their projected starting 5 going into the season. Bob, how do you feel about that, especially with how poor the offense has been and their struggles to score points over the last few weeks?
Brendan, this could be, in fact, I expect it to be addition by subtraction. First of all joking aside, I don't root for Cesar Ruiz to be injured seriously in any way, shape, or form. I'm not a ghoul. But Ruiz being out first and foremost, we could see him placed on short-term injured reserve with the designation to return. That is an option. But as we said on the post-game show, I thought Torricelli Simpkins played outstanding. When replacing Ruiz in the second half of that Buffalo Bills loss on Sunday, we highlighted how good he looked as a run blocker. When I went back and watched the game twice since then, I was really impressed at Simpkins' pass blocking as well. His pass protection seems to have come a long way. Since preseason, when he had some early struggles, but seemed to develop pretty nicely through the preseason. Now, I don't know if Simpkins is going to get the start in Ruiz's spot at right guard. I think it all depends on the health of Dylan Radins, who's missed the last 2 weeks now with a toe injury and also did not practice today with said injury. By the way, Trevor Penning also missed today's practice with an ankle injury. But Radins played, I thought, pretty solid football when stepping in for the injured Penning in the first 3 games. I expect if Penning can play, he'll play left guard, and if Radins can play and he's healthy, he'll probably play right guard. But it wouldn't surprise me to see Simpkins get that nod. And with the way Ruiz is playing, that's exactly why I said addition by subtraction. Ruiz has been not only the weak point of that offensive line, but a major liability for the entire offense. And this is not only through 4 games this season. This is dating back a couple years now, like you said. I wrote an article last week leading up to the Buffalo game calling for Ruiz to be benched in favor of either Radins or Simpkins. Again, not rooting for an injury here. I just feel the team is better off without Cesar Ruiz. And by the way, another injury update, Kellen Moore this afternoon, when announcing Ruiz's status, also announced to reporters that Chase Young has already been ruled out for Sunday's game against the New York Giants. So with that, we just give another shrug of the shoulders. Maybe Chase is shooting for Thanksgiving and Christmas. I don't know. But Chase Young will not be in the lineup against the Giants this week.
Yeah, my bet's not looking very good. Or fake bets from
hate to say I told you so, but
yeah, a week ago as he sips, I told you so, takes a drink. For those of you who missed that or haven't caught up fully, we made a little bit of a wager, a friendly fake wager about whether or not he was going to play 50% of his games this year, that being Chase Young. And I said, Yeah, I mean, he just got paid, but I would like to hope that he would. And Bob said, well, and yeah, he's missed 30-something% or 40-something% of the games he's ever been eligible to play. So he's just a guy who can't stay healthy, regardless of how talented he is. It's frustrating. Okay, well, that gives you an injury update. Let's talk about the main reason that we are sitting in our chairs this evening. Bob wrote an article this week, and this is what really sparked the idea to have the conversation on the air. Bob wrote an article this week kind of highlighting the pros and cons of making the move to Tyler Shuck at starting quarterback. We kind of dabbled in this conversation a little bit Sunday post game, but I wanted to expand on that, especially because Bob wrote an excellent article that you guys should go read if you have not.
Thank you.
I also wanted to talk and expand on our conversation when it came to Chris Olave, right? Do we need to really sit down and have the conversation about, is Chris Olave a part of the future plans? And I kind of roped Spencer Rattler into that. Can we talk about whether or not Spencer Rattler is in the future plans for this team or not? Or was he a holdover or a bridge quarterback, I believe is the term that a lot of people like to use. So let's start with Rattler and end with Olave. I'm doing that because everybody wants to talk about quarterback. And they're going to want to talk about, and I know we know how you guys operate, right? I see some of you in the comments. Hey, John. Hey, Jerry. Hope you guys are doing well. Some of the usuals hanging out with us, Bob. No surprise there. But we know how you fans are. In what I mean by that, not in a negative way. Until the next franchise quarterback suits up in the black and gold and is evident that this person is the next franchise quarterback, we're going to talk about quarterback. It's the most important position on the football field. Saints fans and analysts and really anybody associated with the franchise was spoiled from 2006 to 2020, 2021 with Drew Brees. Well, it's been a little bit of a roller coaster ride since then. Bob and I like to play that game of, can you name all the quarterbacks that have started for the Saints? It's not as bad as that Cleveland Browns list, which is getting longer, by the way.
Yeah.
Since Tim Couch. But yeah, it's going to be the discussion point. And it doesn't matter how good or bad these guys play. It's always going to be a discussion. So Spencer Rattler. I want to start on the positive things, Bob, and the positive things that I think we both agree on. So if you don't agree with something I say, call a timeout, do whatever, and we can discuss it. But these are the things that I believe we mutually agree on when we have watched Spencer Rattler play, particularly this year. Because last year may not have been the fairest opportunity, barring the teams that he was out there with. Okay? He plays hard, right? He's a guy that you see effort week in and week out, regardless of the score. There are some things on film that stick out to you that make you go, okay, I can see why he was rated so high coming out of high school. And I can see why he was a starting quarterback in arguably the best conference in college football. We can agree, though there are things that jump out on tape that make you think everything that I just said. The mechanics are not good. And at this point, we don't know how much of those mechanics are really fixable. Number 4. Rattler has the capabilities of being an NFL quarterback. It is still undetermined whether that is going to be a starting quarterback or a career-long backup quarterback. And number 5 that I think we can agree on when it comes to Spencer Rattler, it was never the plan for Rattler to start 17 games this season. Those are 5 things we can agree on. Okay, great. So with that, the conversation then becomes, if all of those things are true, and we agree on all of those things, the conversation becomes, when is the best time or the most logical time, or when should the Saints, which I think are all different things, when is the best time, when is the most logical time, when should the Saints make the change to Tyler Shuck, who they drafted in the second round of this past NFL draft? I think it's a complicated one. I think what'll be an interesting article. So here's your article idea, Bob. You can steal it from me. Just give me some credit. I think it'll be an interesting article to write whenever the change does happen, because once you've made the change to Shuck, you're not going back to Rattler. Like, Rattler's time with the Saints, I believe, as a starting quarterback, is essentially over whenever they make the transition. I think. Okay, that's the first thing Bob and I don't necessarily agree on, but I think it would be all but over. I think it would be.
I kind of like this not speaking thing, and you. I kind of like this not speaking thing, and you just take my answers off of my facial expressions. So by all means, proceed.
I mean, we've worked together long enough. I sometimes I don't even need like a facial expression. Like, I could just see like a little bit of like an eye glaze, and it's like, okay, got it. But I think it'll be an interesting article to write whenever the Spencer Rattler experience is truly over, to look back game by game with the rosters that he had and determine whether or not he truly had a fair opportunity or not. Because there's going to be and that's why you write opinion articles, right? And that's why you do those things. Is because there's going to be some people that go, oh, absolutely. He started 10 games. There's going to be other people that are like, like 5 of those games, maybe he got a fair shot. And there's going to be other people that go, no, he didn't get a fair shot at all. So keep that one in your back pocket for whenever the Spencer Rattler experience is over. But, Bob, I believe that you think the time to make the change is now. We can report, at least for now, that we have no indication that the change will happen before the game against New York. And if that change would have been happening, we would have heard about it already. We believe. So all indication is that Spencer Rattler will start against the New York Giants. I want to clear the floor for you, Bob, to tell us why you think the best time is whenever you believe the best time is. I think that you think the best time is now. But I'll let you discuss openly to your audience, your congregation, brother Bob, why you are leaning towards the Spencer Rattler time is going to be over sooner rather than later.
Okay. First of all, the article and this rant is not anti-Spencer Rattler. In fact, it has nothing to do with that. But I do believe, right. But I do believe that if not now, as in this week, then the time to move on from Rattler should be soon. Assuming we see the same Spencer Rattler this coming Sunday that we have seen for 10 games as a professional quarterback and the majority of his collegiate career. I want to acknowledge the people who responded, especially for several of you for several of you, I wanted to use the F-bomb. I'm not gonna. For several of you people that did not even bother reading past the title of the damn article, and for all of you who are defending Spencer Rattler until the bitter end, mad respect to the second group of people. But the people that were saying, well, why put Shuck in? He sucks too. Or, well, why? What's the difference? Neither of them are Drew Brees. If you're waiting for the next Drew Brees, you may want to check into a rehab center now, because it might be a long wait. And the people that are saying, "Oh, Rattler's not the reason they're losing games." No, he's not the only reason they're losing games. He's not the major reason they're losing games. And to the flip side, the people that are saying he's got to go, he's 0-10 as a starter, and he's this, he's that, he's just awful. I wasn't saying that either. Here's the premise for my thinking and my article. Yes, Spencer Rattler is 0-10 as a starter. I really didn't harp on that, though, because as you often point out, Brendan, Spencer was basically playing with a JV team last year. Receiving core, gone. Offensive line, gone. Kamara for the last 3 or 4 games, gone. So Rattler had nobody. That's not the case this year. Yeah, the offensive line has been a little banged up, but certainly far more intact than what he had to work with last year. He's had Kamara, he's had Kendre Miller, he's had an offensive-minded coach, and all of his wideouts have been healthy. As a result, we have seen an uptick, a significant uptick in Rattler's completion percentage, 57% to 67%. He's avoided the big mistakes as far as interceptions, fumbles, et cetera. So I'll give him credit for all that. But here are the numbers that I cannot get over. And to me, these are far worse than 0-10. 5.6 yards per attempt. 7.8 yards per completion. New Orleans has had 4 completions of 20 yards, of over 20 yards this year. 4. They've had no completions over 40 yards. And only one of 30-plus yards. That was a 39-yarder to Rashid Shaheed. When you have a track team at receiver, and Shaheed, Chris Olave, Brandon Cooks, an athletic tight end who can beat teams down the field, and Juwan Johnson, and a running back who runs routes like a wide receiver in Alvin Kamara. Those are sickening numbers. Like they should make you nauseous. And some of you Rattler defenders, partially correctly so, will point out, well, it's the game plans. It's the play calling. It is, but only to a point. Rattler's had his chances to go down the field. He doesn't take them. He looks to me like a player afraid to pull the trigger. That's at worst. At best, he looks like a player hesitant to make the throws downfield. And when he does, he's extremely inaccurate. Extremely. And this is a player that I have seen do this all the way back through college, through his early days at Oklahoma. This is the same Spencer Rattler I've watched at Oklahoma, watched at South Carolina, analyzed for the draft, and that we watched last year. So that's one of my arguments for turning to Shuck now or soon, was that I think you know what you have in Rattler. Whether you like it or hate it is irrelevant. You know what you have. What you don't know what you have, where you don't know what you have, is in Shuck. And I made the argument that maybe Tyler Shuck is actually a better fit for this offense. Chris Olave, 7.1 yards per reception. 7.1, that's worth repeating. Rashid Shaheed, under 10, 9.7. Brandon Cooks, 8.9 yards per catch. You got to make these guys, you got to get these guys deep, allow them to make plays. Shuck has a huge arm. Not that Rattler doesn't, but Shuck has a huge arm and a gunslinger mentality. Now, he throws a lot of he threw a lot of interceptions in college as a result of that mentality, but he made a hell of a lot of plays downfield. So maybe inserting Tyler Shuck will allow you to open up your offense, your downfield plays a little bit. And by doing so, and we know Kellen Moore likes to work opponents, likes to work defenses east to west, from sideline to sideline. But in not taking plays downfield, whether you want to blame Rattler, whether you want to blame Moore, the reality is it's both of their faults. But the equally frightening reality is by not doing so, by not being able to make the plays down the field, the defenses are allowed to cheat up. So you have no room to run underneath, whether it's rushing plays or short, quick passes, hoping your receiver is going to break one. Well, now you have an extra few defenders down in those zones, down in that box. Makes it very, very difficult. Maybe Shuck opens that up a little bit. And another thing about Rattler, I just patted, gave him the internet pat on the back for his completion percentage, but he throws behind receivers a lot, and I mean a lot. I am not absolving the drop passes by these pass catchers, especially by Olave. I'm not absolving them of blame at all. But Spencer Rattler often does not put the ball in position for his receivers, hits them on the run, or puts the ball out in front of them, with the opportunity to make plays after the catch. Well, when you have weapons like all the ones I just mentioned, the three speedsters at receiver, Jawan, Kamara, you want to at least give them a chance to use that open field elusiveness and use those open field skills to maybe break one. If you're not going to take the top off a defense with the throw, then at least test the defense. All right, I'm going to make you bring these guys down in space, and good luck. Well, if your quarterback's putting the ball behind them or making them have to come to a dead stop just to make the catch, that's not giving them much of an opportunity to make plays. Again, will Shuck be any better? I don't know. But that's the point to this. You don't know what you have in Tyler Shuck, which brings me to point number 3. I pointed out the lack of the zero plays down the field. I pointed out the inaccuracy. A perfect example of that was Rattler missing a wide open Brandon Cooks by putting the ball behind him in the end zone against Buffalo. That's just the most recent and most egregious example, but those kind of plays, several of them, happen every single game. And again, this is the same Spencer Rattler I watched at Oklahoma, South Carolina, and pre-draft analysis. So nothing has changed. Will it change with Shuck? Again, we don't know, but that's why I made point number 3. If you know what you have in Spencer Rattler, who, by the way, was a player who was drafted by a previous coach under a previous regime. Kellen Moore comes in this offseason, revamps the entire offensive unit, then says, the quarterback I want to draft from my offense in the second round is Tyler Shuck. So Tyler Shuck is now a hand-picked draft choice of Kellen Moore, because Kellen Moore specifically saw traits in Shuck he wanted for that offense. Well, why don't you play it? And again, you Rattler defenders, saying, well, why go to Shuck? You're not going to win with Shuck. Well, you're not winning with Rattler. That's clear. Whether you want to blame it all on him, which would be incorrect, or not is irrelevant. You're not winning with Rattler right now. You know what you have in Rattler. You don't know what you have in Tyler Shuck. Now, I think it's pretty safe to say, even just 4 games in, that by the time we fast forward to the end of the season, the Saints are going to have a long list of team needs that you and I are going to be talking about. You're going to give us plenty of topics for shows, Brendan. Don't you want to find out how high quarterback is on that list of needs? And for those of you saying, well, Tyler Shuck isn't the answer. All right, Mr. or Mrs. Expert, I'd like to see your paycheck from an NFL team, because you don't know the answer to that question. I'm not saying Tyler Shuck is the answer, by the way. I'm not. What I'm saying is we need to find out if he is. Kellen Moore needs to find out if he is, because if you go into this offseason and Shuck has played lights out, all of a sudden you don't have to use a first-round draft choice on a quarterback. You don't have to use a draft choice on a quarterback at all, maybe. But if you let him sit on the bench the whole time until the season is well out of control, and other players, whether they want to admit it or not, have just kind of mailed it in. Right now, they're still playing to get back into contention for the division. As far-fetched as that might seem to you guys, that's not what they're thinking in this locker room. They're still playing games to win them, to get back into contention. Now, maybe something turns on in Spencer Rattler in week 5 against the Giants and they're off and running. If so, great. I would be happy to write about that, and I will happily acknowledge I was wrong. But if you see the same Spencer Rattler against a Giants team that has an awful defense, by the way, ranks near the bottom of the league in all categories, why the hell wouldn't you make the change to Shuck at that point? And I'm not saying just, you don't make the change just for the sake of making the change. You make the change because I know what I have in Rattler. I need to see what I have in Shuck, who, by the way, Kellen Moore, picked to run this offense with a high draft choice. We're not talking about a day 3 pick here where I'm not saying teams just throw them away, but teams are more apt to take a chance, take a risk, take a gamble with a day 3 pick, hoping that they hit pay dirt. That's how you get the Terrell Davises and Tom Brady's and Shannon Sharps and Brock Purdy's of the world. Teams take a chance. Oh, you're a pretty good fit for our system, overlooked by everybody else. Yeah, let's take a chance. Has some traits we like. Let's take a chance. No, that's not what Tyler Shuck is. Tyler Shuck is a high draft choice who in many circles was viewed at as a first-round talent. So if he's viewed at that way and you spend the draft choice on him, you have to know and you have to find out whether he's going to be your answer at the quarterback position. I know all you anti-Shuck people would love to be right. I've been telling you since draft day. Me personally, rather than rely on I don't mind saying I told you so when I told you so. But I also don't mind admitting when I'm wrong. This has nothing to do with whether I'm right or wrong, whether you're right or wrong. This has to do with what the Saints need, what the Saints have at quarterback. And the simple fact of the matter is we don't know what the Saints have at quarterback. They don't know what they have at quarterback. You need to find out, and you need to find out sooner rather than later.
To quote you, Rattler hasn't necessarily played poorly enough to be benched. He also hasn't played well enough to be the difference in winning football games, or 3 close football games. Rattler has played safe football and is a highly competitive player. Shuck may also be a better fit for the explosive players the Saints have in this offense. I think you said that in your article. You said that just now. I think that's the important part of the discussion for you guys who are saying, well, Rattler's not losing you games. Yeah, you're right. He's not the sole reason they're losing. As someone who has always liked the prospect of what Spencer Rattler can become, I have seen growth from Rattler's game in certain aspects. I have not seen enough growth to warrant the idea of, hey, he has grown so much, let's just scrap the idea of Tyler Shuck that we drafted where we did.
Yep, that is Rattler's your guy now. No, I agree.
I haven't seen that. I've seen things that I'm impressed with, right? I think, and one of the biggest things that I've seen on tape, I think his pocket presence has gotten better.
It has.
The ability to just have it click and go, okay, let me step up and go, is a lot better than where it was when he was in college and certainly his first year. Now, some of that might also be that he actually has competent offensive linemen this year, opposed to last year. But he seems like he has more awareness. The awareness rating in Madden definitely went up.
Did it really?
I have no idea, but
all right.
I would hope so. I would hope it did because his awareness is better. His pocket awareness, his pocket presence is better. And we've said it, right? We've said it for how many months now since the draft? I don't know. Shuck start games this year, right? Mm-hmm. That was it. Once Rattler got named the starting quarterback for week 1, we both said, well, Shuck's going to start at some point this year. For you sports card collectors, Tyler Shuck's stuff is a lot cheaper than other quarterbacks in this draft class right now. Why? Because people haven't seen him play. If you want a potentially good investment, buy cheap. because Shuck is cheaper than everybody else right now. And if he has one good start, or when he gets named the starter, all that stuff's going to jump. That's just how that market works. So, sports card fans, you're welcome. There's free advice for you. I'm with you. I don't think it needs to be now. And I said that on Sunday. I do, however, think this is the last chance for Rattler to go get a win. Because they have back-to-back games against New England's actually playing a little bit better than I thought, and Drake Mays played okay. But you have back-to-back home games against two teams that you do have a shot at winning against, at least with the talent on paper. So if Rattler does not play well, the Saints don't win, I think then you really have a really hard look at, okay, we're 0-5. Do we need to make the change? Now, if the Saints win and Rattler plays okay, I think he gets the game against New England. If Rattler plays well and the Saints lose, I think you're back at kind of just having a tough conversation. Those are the situations that I foresee, is if they lose and Rattler has played the way that he has, it's probably time to really take a close, hard look at it. If the Saints win and Rattler plays the way that he has, I do think he gets the New England game. If the Saints lose, but Rattler has a hell of a day, I still think you have that dialogue. I do think it is a more difficult dialogue to have.
Yeah, and that's the first two scenarios you pointed out, I think, are no-brainers, and I agree with your solution on both. Scenario 3, if it's, say, and I think that this would shock the hell out of all of us, but remember that 2015 game between the Saints and Giants in the Superdome, the 52-49, Brees threw for 505 yards, 7 touchdowns, NFL record, tied an NFL record. Eli, in a losing effort, threw for almost 400 yards and 6 touchdowns. First of all, if it's that kind of game, it's not going to be that kind of game. But say it is. Kind of game. Yeah, right. Say it is, and Spencer Rattler plays the role of Eli Manning, and in a losing effort, throws for 350 yards and 5 or 6 touchdowns. I don't think you bench him then. Because I think again you say okay, this guy, because if he has a game like that obviously means he's made some downfield play. He's done everything that I said that he hasn't done throughout his entire career to this point. So okay, if that remains, we can win with this guy, and you do keep him in the lineup. But if they lose, and they lose in the way that they have been losing, I think you have to make the switch. I do.
I think if he puts up a game, I don't have the stats right in front of me. My computer's all janky. I'm not going to risk trying to look it up. If he has a game like he did where it's like 200-something yards, 3 touchdowns, and the Saints lose, I don't think that's enough, right? But if he has 300 yards plus 3 touchdowns, I think it's a little bit of a harder discussion. Mm-hmm. And then to your point, if he gets to 400 yards or close to 400 yards and 3 or more touchdowns, then that's a whole other discussion. It's kind of silly, though. You ever think about that? Like how silly we make these conversations? It's like, yeah, it's 100 yards is the difference between starting and not starting. Yeah, I can understand how silly that sounds. But more than anything, we're talking about gotta have success going deep. Yeah. Gotta push the ball more than 5 or 6 yards. Right? Look, some of you guys that play Madden or NCAA football or do what I do in NCAA football and try to coach your alma mater to a national championship, even though they're not even in the FBS and then the FCS. Right? Like, you have quarterbacks that can't push the ball downfield, but you do it anyway, or you try to do it anyway. I need to see that. And honestly, Bob, I think he'd get benched in this case, but even if he pushes it down the field and it doesn't work and it's not successful, at least I've seen him try to push the ball down the field more than once a game. And when I say push the ball down the field, I'm not talking about, the images that are burned into our minds of number 9 craning his neck on his tippy toes and launching that thing 50 yards. I'm talking about like a 20-yard completion.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's what I want. Or, hit a receiver on a 10-yard in and see if you can put it in front of them and let them cut up field, right? I'm just sick and tired of these little dump passes. I'm sick and tired of like these 5-yard curls to Juwan Johnson.
Yep.
I'm actually not, because Juwan's on my fantasy team, so I keep doing that.
But I mean, 27 completions, only 214 yards. 25 completions, only 206 yards. 28 completions, 218 yards. 18 completions, 125 yards. That's been Spencer Rattler's stat line in the first 4 games of this season. Completion percentage, no, it's not good. It's flat out not good enough. And those are just the raw numbers. And we're saying that that's not good enough. When you click on the tape and take off your blinders, if you're a Spencer Rattler supporter, you will see a quarterback again who refuses to pull the trigger deep and is inaccurate when on the rare occasions that he does, and has accuracy problems hitting his guys in stride, and especially in the intermediate zones of the defense. That's the guy I see and have always seen.
The best throw that I've seen Spencer make, outside of the Juwan Johnson drop, pass breakup, was the 39-yard shot to Rashid Shaheed, because he dropped it in a bucket. But that was one of the few times where it was like, from the snap, you knew where the ball was going. There was no hesitation, and it was like, this is what we're doing, and if it's incomplete, it's incomplete. And he threw a hell of a pass. And I remember that was early in that game.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, okay, here we go. We're opening up the offense. Here we go, baby. And then I was like, just kidding. That was it. That was the only all right, real quick. We'll take 10 minutes maybe to talk Chris Olave. We talked a little bit on Sunday. The question that I have on the bottom, is it time to have that talk? Abso-freaking-lutely. It is time to have that talk. This is where I'll defend Chris Olave a little bit. Number 1 in the league in targets, meaning that the Saints value him as their number 1 guy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Found the end zone for the first time in almost a calendar year. All right, great. Am I going to really applaud you for that? No, it was a simple pitch and catch. I think I said that on Sunday. It was as easy as it gets. 1, 2, 3, plant foot throw. And it's not like you're squeezing it in between 2 guys. You had a plenty big of enough of a window, and you caught it. Yay, congrats. I will give him credit that for a guy who's sustained as many injuries as he has over the first few years, he has worked hard to come back.
Mm-hmm.
And he has worked somewhat hard to get back to form. Where I will not sing his praises is the yards per catch, which I will split 50-50. I think you have to give him grace there, because it's not all his fault. Maybe creating yards after the catch, we can, maybe be a little harsher on, but it's the way the offense has been, whether it's play calling, whether it's Spencer Rattler, whether it's a mix of both. I think we both agree it's a mix of both. You can't control the fact that you're not really getting opportunities down the field. However, when you do get opportunities down the field, or you have a great opportunity to make a first down catch on about a 10-yard out, and you can't come up with a very simple catch, To quote Bob said, any college player in football makes that catch. I think you even said, hell, a lot of varsity players make that catch. That's a problem. I joked on Sunday that maybe Derek Carr was more correct than incorrect when he had some tantrums with Chris Olave. I will not go as far as saying Chris Olave is a diva.
No.
Because we have seen divas in these locker rooms over the last 10 years. And we have seen the stereotypical, like, wide receiver attitudes over the years, for good or bad, right? I won't go that far. But I will say this is a guy who is not living up to the first round selection. I will say this is a guy whose value has plummeted over the last few years. And I'll say that this is a guy that I don't know how much he wants to be here. Right? Again, I'm not calling him a diva. I'm not suggesting that I have personally seen anything that makes me go, he wants out. But compared to some of the other guys on this team and their actions and how they finish plays, etc., I don't see the same sort of heart and like fire and passion out of Chris Olave as other guys. And we had a whole conversation about this a couple Wednesdays ago when I was in Seattle, talking about how guys don't necessarily love the game. I think Chris Olave loves the game of football. I don't know if he loves the situation he's in right now. And as a young 20-year-old, a lot of times your emotions when you're unhappy in a situation are on your sleeve a lot more than when you're in your 30s or in your 40s or your 50s, or I'm getting close to Bob. But honestly, I do think he's starting to wear his emotions on his sleeve a little bit. I think he's frustrated. I think he has some reasonable reasons to be frustrated. But I think this is ultimately something where it's like inevitable that he's not going to be a Saint long term, because either he's going to request too much money and the Saints are going to go no, or there's going to hit a point where the Saints are just like, let's just blow it up at that position, right? You just talked about all these track stars that they have. Well, keep the track star that's also your punt returner, but maybe move a guy like Olave, get some picks, or move him for a veteran guy that is a little bit more of a possession receiver, a bigger body guy. Because just like we were talking with Spencer Rattler, none of these receivers were handpicked. Well, when I say none of these receivers, Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed were not handpicked by Kellen Moore. Right? Cooks got brought back in. Vele, that's a whole nother thing. To trade two picks and him just not play is ridiculous. But that's a different conversation for a different day. So, yeah, I do think it's inevitable that Chris isn't on this team within the next... To give myself some buffer room before the next contract.
I think they should move. And I was going to piggyback my Spencer Rattler article with an article about what I believe they should do about Chris Olave, yesterday and to today. Right. But I unfortunately, I had technical issues that also prevented me from being on Under the Dome last night. For you fans of both shows, that's why I was absent. I'm actually waiting for a replacement phone. I've been waiting, waiting for this one to die. So if I sound flunky or frozen up, that's probably on my end. So I apologize. But anyway, as long as my technology holds up, you will be getting an article from me, and it will basically be titled why the Saints should trade Chris Olave now. What I mean by now is before the trading deadline. We talked about Olave's 7.1 yards per catch. Well, I do put some of that on Spencer Rattler, as we said before, and Kellen Moore, the play calling, the game plans. I'm not seeing Chris Olave, a wide receiver that fights for yards after the catch either. So Olave himself has had, and you just kind of alluded to this. Olave himself has had opportunities to inflate those numbers, and he hasn't. I looked on Pro Football Reference, and unless the number has been updated in the last 4 or 5 hours, Pro Football Reference is only crediting Chris Olave for 2 drop passes this year. I hope they update those numbers because that's pure bullshit. Chris Olave dropped 2 passes alone against Buffalo. And by my count, he has 5 drop passes this year. We talked about Rattler throwing behind receivers and being inaccurate. But quite a few of those throws, quite a few of those drops by Olave were catches that an NFL receiver makes. Mm-hmm. Not just and I said NFL, any NFL receiver. This is supposed to be your top wideout. And don't get me wrong, I love Chris Olave as a player. I have since Ohio State. Love the draft pick of him. Still think he's capable of being a number 1 receiver. But he hasn't been. He hasn't made those plays that, we talk about Rattler not making the plays to win you a game. That falls on the receivers too. Olave is not making the plays a number 1 wideout makes to put your team in position to win. And he hasn't for most of his career. It's been especially evident this year. And the reason why I say trade Chris Olave now, I'm not saying that he should be given up on. But the reason I make the move is, Brendan, you talk about the next contract. Well, the Saints have to make a decision on the next contract for Olave next year. They've already picked up his 5th-year rookie option, which means he's looking at a massively inflated cap number next year. He's still a young guy, really young guy, got all the ability in the world. I think that you could get not a number 1 draft choice for him. Let's be real here. But I think you could get a team that views themselves as a contender and needs to improve. They feel they need to improve their receiver room. You could get at least 1 day 2 pick, possibly a day 2 and a day 3 conditional type of pick for Chris Olave. And I know, we're talking about, okay, you need to, whether you believe Rattler or Shuck should be the starter, you still always need to surround your young quarterback with playmakers to give them a chance. But my question to that is this: what's Chris Olave done that you don't believe Rashid Shaheed, Brandon Cooks, Devon Vele can do just as well as Olave has done this season? In other words, my point of argument is, I don't believe you worsen your team by trading Chris Olave right now. I don't. And that's why you do it. And it pains me to say, because again, I love Olave as a player. I would love him to be one of the young pieces that this team rebuilds their squad around. But right now, he just doesn't have that look. He hasn't been playing like a top receiver. And damn well he's going to demand top receiver money. And when he hits that 5th-year contract extension next year, he's going to be making receiver 1 money. That's why you move on from him now, when you can still get a relatively decent return for him, probably in the form of draft picks, which is wise to do anyway. When you're is still backed up against the salary cap and trying to rebuild the young core of your team.
My guess, if he were to hit the market today, I think you would get multiple teams offer a 3rd and a 5th. It might be a reach.
I agree.
You might have one team that offers like a 2nd and a 7th, or a 2nd and that's it. And then just, a player to make money work. Right? But I would find it hard pressed to see a team give up a 2nd round pick for Chris right now. But a 3rd and a 5th, I think, is reasonable. And I think there is going to be, there would be rather some teams very interested in
Mm-hmm.
that idea. I'm with you, Bob. Like I said, I do think it's kind of inevitable that a breakup's going to happen. I don't necessarily point it all on Chris.
No.
But it just does not seem the timeline on which Chris Olave was drafted on is no longer the current timeline of the New Orleans Saints. And because of that, it becomes a little awkward. And what I mean by that is, remember when Chris got drafted, this was a team that was moving on from Drew. And there was still some hope that there was enough there in a bad division for this team to compete. And, back-to-back years, they don't make the playoffs by one game. You bring Derek Carr in, that's supposed to kind of extend this window where the Saints could make the playoffs. They don't, and now all of a sudden they're rebuilding. Chris is a young talent, but where he is in his career, and you also talk about wanting that second contract and that wide receiver one money, I don't think he's on the timeline of a rebuilding team. But he could be on the timeline of a team that is just above that, right? Like maybe they're breaking into the playoffs this year for the first time. Or a team that, and this comes up every year, but like a team where a receiver gets hurt, right? And they need a guy as a rental, essentially, to try to get them to a Super Bowl. Those situations are always going to be open. But I just don't see Chris's timeline in his NFL career matching this timeline anymore.
No.
And I think that's another big reason on why it would be smart to get. It's not going to be 100 pennies on the dollar, right? But man, if you can get 70 cents for it, because I would find it I would be hard pressed to believe that this team is going to pay Chris Olave $100+ million. I just do. I also think it's silly in this rebuild phase.
You say silly, I say stupid, but tomato.
It would not be smart. It would be something I would do in Madden just because. I know the guy doesn't deserve the money. I just want him around. But that's why we always say, like, this isn't Madden. And to break the hearts of some more of you guys so we can just end it on a whole sad note is this isn't going to be a quick rebuild, right? This isn't a retool. I think that's the word difference now is a retool versus a rebuild. This is not a retool. You are rebuilding the house. You are rebuilding your credit score, as I've joked about for many years. This is going to be a process. And as Bob and I talked about last week, that also is going to mean some guys that you really like, some guys you've really loved wearing the black and gold, probably not being around because their timelines don't fit either. It sucks, but it's the reality of the situation. And it's a situation that Bob and I have been begging for a while. Really, I mean, maybe not since Drew retired, but certainly after that 21 season, we're like, just go ahead and tear it down. And here we are, however many years later, going, yeah, we should still probably do that thing that we recommended back in 21. So with that, Bob, if his phone holds up, right? His phone is questionable this week. With
day to day, not Chase Young day to day, but day to day.
Truly day to day. Okay, got it. With whatever injury Bob wants to create for his phone, if it holds up, he's a game time decision. If he goes out on the field, he tests it out, and everything is fine with the phone, not Bob. He will have an article for you in regards to the Chris Olave, which we were just talking about. So make sure you guys give that a deep dive and a deep read. And if you haven't checked out the Spencer Rattler article, you can do that as well. Bob, where can people find you, find your articles, find your work, and where could they maybe send you some money to bless you with a new phone?
Yeah, right. You could check out all those articles. And, oh, by the way, the Saints actually do have an opponent this week. We didn't talk a lot about the New York Giants, but I will be writing a lot about them. and previewing the Week 5 game back in the Superdome between the Saints and the Giants. And you can check all that out and more. I write for the Saints Wire. It's a USA Today publication. You can check out Saints Wire on Facebook, over on Twitter as well, at the Saints Wire. And as always, I post all of my articles on my personal social media, which is Bob Rose Facebook, at Bobby R 2613. Make sure, if you aren't already, make sure that you become a member of the Bayou Blitz Facebook group and Bayou Blitz Twitter page. Real easy to find both. Help that brand grow. If you're already a member, thank you. But get other Saints fans, other football fans over into those groups too. Make them grow. And folks, remember to check out our friends at Get Checked or Check Out. tcynow.org is their website. You can also take a minute, check out their website, see what they're all about, donate a little bit too. Help them help us, because that's what they're there for. Don't forget that the 2026 Original Go Black and Gold Celebrity Charity Fan Cruise is from March 26th through March 30th. Please book your cabins today. Get a hold of Summer Cochran, the 985-643-6958 number I gave you. You can also book via the Get Checked or Check Out site. But if you book through Summer, you can let her know that you were referred by the Bayou Blitz. But make that booking now. Get your cabin held now. Again, it benefits a great cause, gives you a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And it gives me one, too, because I get to meet and hang out with you. So you brighten my day, too, and everybody likes to see Bob smile, right?
Happy Bob is better than Mad Bob. 100%. Or Angry Bob is what we used to call it during the sports days. Angry Bob was fun during some of those periods. For myself, you can check me out here at BT Boylan, Instagram and Twitter. For all my North Carolina folks or people that are close to even South Carolina that maybe want to make the trip, we do have an official date for the 5-year anniversary screening of the Dancing Bulldogs, the film that I was a part of making. It will be at Gardner-Webb University on October the 16th, 7 p.m. showtime. That includes a Q&A with the director, producers, and such, as well as I believe the assistant coach from that team will be in attendance as well. So if you guys want to, shoot me a DM. I can provide some further details. It'd be cool to meet up with some of you guys. And as we continue through, like I said, a busy October, hopefully we see some Saints wins. Bob, I will be texting you. We'll tweet our score predictions because we haven't got to that, but we'll tweet them this week so people can hold us accountable and say that we don't make up things. It'll be there on the tweeter. So until Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, that's Bob Rose. There we go. There's Bob Rose. I'm Brendan Boylan. Thanks so much for tuning in to another edition of the Bayou Blitz Podcast. Till Sunday, find some peace, spread love, practice positivity. We'll see you then. Who dat?